Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is yet another episode of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys for a little playoff preview and regular season recap. And we begin the show with, of course, the boys who stole the show in the LEC despite not making playoffs. Los Ratones, as everybody kind of anticipated. First, we had Baus saying he's not playing pro anymore, even though he had a little bit more to give, maybe like a playoff run, which is extra sad. And then K-Drill dropping the big video that this is it for the LR boys. They're not running it back for split 2 or anything. Everyone's going to be going their separate ways. So we're here just to celebrate the incredible run that they did go on. And, you know, we're immediately, I think people are going to talk about how do you replicate this? How do you do this maybe in other regions or with other teams? But I'm not sure you can replicate the magic that happened with these 5 guys in K-Drill.
I think it's at both times it's the easy and complicated answer to get to, but I think yes, the answer has to be it simply can't be replicated anymore. One of these things we've seen various iterations try, right? We have Forson's team right now, you have double lifts near airport the year before type of thing, but I don't think that you've ever had the combination of full commitment from all the players, coaching, K-Drill, everything. That type of commitment from everybody is not equal in any of these other projects. And then as well, I just think the fact of who K-Drill is and how he has built himself up to be this figure within the League of Legends community and what he provides on the side, having that as that figurehead in control, coach, whatever, all these things was a major factor of that Los Ratones, or that initial buy-in for a lot of people, and I don't think that you get that without him. And to be honest, nobody's really at that level within the League of Legends space, co-streaming, whatever, so it is absolutely hard to see a way that this could be replicated. I think this is one of those situations where, you know, I understand there's going to be quite a lot of sad, upset, angry, whatever type of emotions, but it really has to be one of the ones, and purely from a survival point of view for yourself, it has to be you're happy, you're smiling that it happened, not crying because it's over.
And, you know, the reason it worked, number one, you had all 5 players took this very seriously, right? Eventually, I think when they started winning so much, they were like, oh, wow, we can actually, you know, do something with this. And then, yes, having an outside, you know, K-Drill, number one as the coach, but as the main guy kind of investing and creating this team, the near airport one didn't have that. I don't know who the NA equivalent of K-Drill is. Really, there's no K-Drill equivalent. But you needed someone outside to kind of push the guys and hold them accountable. That never happened. The Forsen one is, and even the Ruddy Sack one, you know, there's been lots of kind of spin-offs trying to replicate the magic that LR had, and they've all fallen up short. It's either too for fun, not serious, aka the Forsen and the Ruddy Sack one, or I mean, there weren't any that were too serious, really. But I think there's going to be more places that are trying to replicate this. And the question now is, where do the rest of these guys go? We know Baus is going to go back to streaming. K-Drill's going to be co-streaming, being fantastic at that. But the other 4 guys, although I'll say Velia less so now that we've had some time, I thought all these guys might get LEC opportunities. It's just whether or not they want to actively pursue it.
Yeah, I think with Velia, at the very least, that's one of those ones where I think that's a player who needs more seasoning, more time, more practice, all these type of things that you could then envision in one of these LEC spots. But absolutely, when you were talking about the other ones, that seems to be the only path when you can look at them. And I think looking at a player like Nemesis specifically, you certainly saw more than enough in the tank, more than enough sharpness within his skill set that is still applicable in the LEC and could be a starting position. I think there is an interesting conversation about Reckless and for some of these teams, and whether that would be a proper fit, and it would have to be a very specific type of situation and landing spot where I would see it work for both parties, and that would be one of the avenues I could see explored. Crownie is a little one of those more suspect, a little bit less down the list, where I think there still could be room for an LEC starting opportunity, but much more lower down the line than I think anybody else on this Los Ratones team. And even the Baus, again, someone who has said not going to be going professional. think there might be some teams that could contact him and try to explore that little bit of fire, a little bit of flame that's still left there by him saying, felt like there was more to give, even knowing that I was only going to do this 1 year, whatever. And even if he isn't fully committed for a long-term runaround, I think there still is some value there in checking in with him as far as these professional teams go.
Yeah, I think Crowney's got it tough because AD Carey might be the most well-rounded and stacked role in the LEC, and I'm not sure any of these squads heading into split 2 or 3 would be willing to make that change. Reckless has obviously transformed so much as a player, become much more vocal and communicative since he role swapped to support. Nemesis, like, bad Yone ulti away kind of throwing the game, that one play removed. This guy was a top 4 mid laner throughout the entirety of the split, so surprisingly, him more than anyone, I think, could have an opportunity in the LEC as a starting guy, and I feel like he's been someone that people have talked about and mentioned. Could he still be LEC caliber even before the whole Los Ratones thing?
Yeah, and so to get the verification, the statistical proof in the pudding of these results absolutely is a big thing for someone like Nemesis. It's one of those ones that opens the door when you talk about, how well he performed this turnaround in the LEC. Maybe that door at Fnatic is open once again, and I know that is a whole mixed bean bag to go through when you're talking about Fnatic with Nemesis. I know he has said that was the best time of his career, but he's also got problems with the way management has gone through some things and continues to do things with Fnatic, so that would be one heck of a spicy burrito to wrap up there. But yes, I think that there absolutely are avenues, are angles that you can see this Los Ratones project spread out into the LEC now that it has concluded.
Let's see what the future holds, either for Cadril in perhaps partnering with the team, because we know one of the main pitfalls for why this couldn't work long term is because of the franchising model that's still in place in the LEC. But maybe there's a way to shoehorn him in, because his fan base is like legit bigger than the LEC at this point, which is absolutely crazy to be talking about a few years removed from him being a caster there. We do have actual playoffs from the 8 remaining teams in the LEC, and if you're looking forward to some weekend games, well, pump the brakes, because it's the Valorant Finals weekend, which means LEC opening round playoffs gets completely trumped, and we gotta wait till Monday, Tuesday for these round 1 matchups.
Oh boy, nobody wants to hear it, but I'm gonna complain about it anyways. I think that is brutal. I understand it's a situational thing. It's what we're working with now in the ecosystem of Riot's esports, and having Valorant be as popular as it is and more than legitimate enough to have this type of hold and rights to weekends in certain situations in the studios. That doesn't mean, as a fan of League of Legends and a fan of the LEC, that I have to be fully content and happy with it. I think that this is a pretty raw deal for the fans, for the players and organizations to have to shift over to a Monday, Tuesday, and even more so when it's, okay, go out there, dog and pony show, Monday, Tuesday, play your matches, and, well, come back out for Friday is when we're rolling out the LEC again, which is crazy in that short amount of time. And again, knowing that we are in the most important time of this split in playoffs, wild stuff going on in the LEC.
And at least it's only the opening round, so, players will warm up to playoffs actually happening. But this is the debut of Fearless in 2026 for the LEC, because we've had a month of best of ones, and even though some of the matchups, I know Heretics had a nice 4-game streak at the end to get there. I don't think anyone's going to pick them to beat G2, even if it's only a best of 3, not best of 5. Sure, G2 probably drops a game with a little for fun on the Rift, but they're going to be huge favorites there. Same for Carmine Corp against Giant X. I'd be surprised if KC drop a match in that one. But the other 2 matchups are a little more interesting. Fnatic, Na'Vi, who actually just played recently in the Valorant bracket, which is a little bit fun. But they didn't play, they played way back in week 1. Na'Vi, one of the many 9K gold leads thrown that we've seen over the years, but they are on the complete opposite trajectory since that matchup to Fnatic.
And maybe if you're in Europe and you're traveling to the LEC studios, you book an extra stay. You stay for the weekend in Valorant, and then Monday, Tuesday, League of Legends, and you
Big
get
brain.
that Fnatic Navi matchup. Yes, the Kobe War is back, and it is here. I'm excited for this one. I think, yeah, there absolutely are angles that you can see, a path to victory if you are a Fnatic. I think you got to be looking at what Navi is doing, and having them be a factor within these LEC playoffs is going to be part of that excitement this time around.
Then the closest matchup on paper is for sure Mof Sarkoi and Vitality, who played in that Week 4 finale. Nako kind of pumped Mirwin, so we need a level up out of him if MKOI wants a chance. And I could see MKOI going down to losers because Vitality seems much more in rhythm and in sync right now than MKOI. Still think by the end of the bracket, we'll be saying MKOI's the better squad.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, that has to be the takeaway, and I think we'll see it proven. Hopefully in a best of 5 here is what I'm hoping for in this playoff series. I want to see it go the full distance. I want everything in these matches right here, right now. That's what I'm feeling about it with this one, with where both these teams are, and as you've laid out, really kind of the extra factor you can look at in this one is how misaligned things were in the top side of this matchup last time around. I think that's certainly an angle to look at for individual improvement out of Mirwin.
LCK side of things, the playoff bracket continues to roll on, and we've got yet another back-to-back throw, a toss-off, if you will. First, you got the DN Supers, finding that perfect miracle fight around Elder Dragon to get back into the game from like a 6K deficit. They've got the Smolder, they're scaling, just play it out slow, but they decide to force the push, try and end the game, and throw the entire squad at the Nexus turrets to immediately throw the game back to BNK. In Game 5, it just feels worse.
Man, that is painful. I'm not going to lie. I'm happy having BNK keep moving on in these playoffs. I think that is a more interesting, more fun angle to talk about. But you got to feel bad for the DN Supers to blow their opportunity, their chance in this type of one, because everybody's been there. They've gotten too hypey, too excited at finally getting back into a game that you shouldn't be in, and you're trying to run that timer in your head of, okay, well, we've only got this amount of time where we can take advantage of it. Let's go for it. And the equation is wrong, and it doesn't work out, and the cost of that false equation is your Nexus being taken down in that time period by BNK. And yes, that's the way it rolls in the LCK, and I think the way the new rules are in League of Legends, we're seeing quite a lot of this flip-flopping in some of these matches. It's not quite 14K and Ocean Soul that KT is able to throw, but this is absolutely up there to have it happen in this playoff series. Not the best look for the DN Supers.
We no longer have it because it was only the LC Cup group stage, but if you had the coach comms, this is the moment after that Elder fight, you call in the coach and say, do we end? Should we end? Should we try end? And the coach would say, no, just chill. You have a Smolder that's now fully activated. We just got Elder. Just chill. We're back in the game and in control.
I'm not going to lie, though. It does feel good to see Smolder taken out at that point, no matter. I don't care who's playing it, what the situation is. A scaled-up Smolder, getting smacked down, getting the gray screen simulator, always a good thing to see.
And how about a Zach Rammus jungle matchup in Game 5? Now we're finally cooking with Fearless. Feels like it's been a while.
Yeah, there it is. And I think Zach, we've seen sprinklings every now and then here with Fearless coming on through. Rammus, that's absolutely something special being cooked up by your boy Piosik out there, but not exactly the full effect, and I don't know if we're going to see him again.
Second Rammus sighting, though, and this one was a lot more impactful than the support Rammus, because that needed to get off the rip. So Piosik, at least a little bit better there. Next up, LCK bracket, you got a rematch of D+ versus DRX. Best of 5 now instead of best of 3. What's the percentage point of DRX getting an upset against DK?
I don't know about that one. I think that
5?
DK, yeah, I'm rolling maybe a 2 or 3% on that. I think what we have seen from DK so far has been very good, and absolutely one of these ones that should be, at least in this stage, still so far, the target to beat within the playoffs of the LCK.
Yeah, and I think, it was such a dominant matchup last time. Showmaker was so on point, in form, however you want to word it, and I think now with that DNS series, unless DK really struggle against DRX, I don't think there's any way Gen G even picks DK in the form they're in versus what the form BNK is in. Even though Gen G, as we know, absolutely owns D+ in best of fives over the last few years.
I think whoever Gen G is picking, you still side with Gen G because of that power and that safety and form that we have seen from them. But yeah, I think that has to be the way that you're evaluating what would be in front of you if you are a Gen G.
One best of five away from actually getting to see Gen G and T1 again on the Rift, though. So claps around for that one.
Yeah, it's been far too long, I think, is the only way to put it. I think in the LCK, I understand, lunar breaks coming up, all sorts of things like that. Having this time, having a break between playoffs, okay. Well, important in a very stressful, jam-packed year like we're going to have with all the events this year. But still, going this long without T1 and Gen G, your very top product in the LCK, not the best.
It just feels wrong. Feels like you're not actually playing in the real big leagues, or it's still kind of a for-fun tournament. So yes, very excited to see them back on the Rift. Excited to see the next round of LCS action in playoffs. We have entered the best of 5 era, and 2 series over the weekend. We start immediately with that rematch of FlyQuest versus Cloud9, and I think the biggest thing here is, again, it's best of 5, and that means we have to check in on APA's champion pool. This is the matchup I'm looking for. He's still only played 3 champions, all split long. I know, only 3 best of 3s, but this is where if you go to game 4, go to game 5, he's going to be tested, even though I'm not sure Quad is going to be the guy to fully test him in that matchup.
That's really the challenge here, and I think that's going to be what you want to be seeing out of this series. And on that number 1 point is that champion pool diversity from APA, and that's something that you're not going to see unless this series goes the distance, unless you are tested, pushed, and punished by this FlyQuest team. And that starts with Quad in the mid lane, being able to stand up and, throughout the laning phases, throughout the extended team fights later on, all those type of things. I think you're going to need a level up in performance or focus from Quad in this series. And as well, you're looking at the other, again, still things that we take as positives, but you can't be so confident in a positive if you are FlyQuest. In Griffin and Cryogen's performance, I think both of them have been so strong and impactful to start the year out for FlyQuest, that if you're looking at this series and looking for an angle for FlyQuest to get that upset, to come away the winner on the day, it still has to run through those 2 young players being a big factor for this team.
And this is going to be the first LCS best of 5, obviously, for 3 of the members of FlyQuest, right? Coming into this, I know Griffin's played in CBLOL, Gakkos. I think it was just the best of 3 he played against VKS last year in that very limited starting time, and then obviously Cryogen's a rookie, so I'm not sure they're ready yet to win a best of 5 against the form Cloud9 is in. That's not to say they can't make a run in losers bracket, but Cloud9 just seems to be, hitting the ground running at such a high level. I could see this going to game 5, and then I'm looking at a pocket pick carry Thanatos performance that Gakkos just is not ready for.
I think that's one of those things that can certainly be that leveled up X factor for Cloud9 within this series. As much as I want to see the APA champion pool, other things going on, Thanatos becoming an edge, an angle for Cloud9 to utilize and pressure and exploit the enemy team could be one of those wrinkles, that next level of dangerous that you add to your team that I think a lot of people would like to see from this roster. So I definitely would love to see that one come through in this series.
Then the other matchup, we have almost even more rookies than on the Disguise side, the FlyQuest side. The surprise winners bracket matchup of Sentinels versus DSG, and I go back and forth on this one. Kryra's only played 3 games, and now all of a sudden he's in best of 5s, but he's just beaten Inspired, so surely Hambach should be no issue for him. But I love the energy that he's brought to DSG, and honestly, Sajed does not play like a rookie so far in these best of 3s. So even though there's more veteran presence on Sentinels, I feel like there's something powerful going on with DSG right now, and much like Thanatos in that topside matchup, Impact hasn't looked great despite Sentinels being 2-1. So I think Castle is a big advantage for DSG.
I think that when you're looking at this series, you can break it down in certain type of ways for the advantages and whatnot, but I think more so the important storyline to pull out from this one, I need this series to show me the firepower that comes within a winner's bracket matchup. That's really, I think, going to be the test for both of these teams, is you have a lot of people questioning, doubting, weathering, how you ended up in this position, how you got the benefits of being in the winner's bracket side of things here. Prove it by showing up in this matchup and bringing that same type of energy, same type of heat and preparation that got you to this point. That's what you want to see in this matchup between these two.
We want to leave feeling worried for Lion and TL, not saying, why are these guys on the winner's bracket? Absolutely show that it wasn't a fluke that you took down. I mean, it's harder to be a fluke when it's not best of ones. They absolutely deserved their game 3 wins and matchups. And anytime squads like TL and Lion Gaming are being pushed, they don't just get a cakewalk to a top 4. This is looking like the most competitive LCS playoff bracket we've had in a few years.
And it's just because, again, being in this type of situation, this position within the bracket playoff scenarios, you got to be real. You can't be the fake deal here. You can't be false promises at this point. You can't just be the one game winning squad type of thing. 1-1-1. You can't just do that. It has to be able to be replicated throughout a series, has to be controlled in that type of aspect. I think, again, when you're looking at young players, that is some of the question marks that you have when you extend out and bring that pressure that a series can bring. So again, that's, I think, to me, the real focus in this one, real pressure, is that I want to see this matchup live up to what this matchup should be.
And just one last note on FlyQuest Cloud9. If Fly lose again, keep your mental, guys. You lost back-to-back series, but it's against Cloud9. You can still even be the second best team in the league, even if you lose those back-to-back. So want to see how strong the mental is out of this young squad. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you. Absolute beauties. Thanks for hanging out as always. We'll catch you on that flippity flip.